Hi, second graders. Happy Friday. You guys have been working on some fiction stories, and some of my kids have been writing some setting description. So I thought today it might be a really fun art STEM project to show you how to make a pop-up page that you could do maybe when you illustrate your story after you're done writing. So I'm going to share my screen first, and I'm going to show you a couple websites that I found that kind of gave me some inspiration, and then I'm going to show you how to make a page. All right. Okay, first I'm going to show you this. As you can see, I found an artist, and she works with kids, and you can see this pop-up book page. It's got one of those things that you pull and you can make the boat move. As you can see, the person that designed this, they did their artwork, and you can tell that they did their very best work. I know it's kind of exciting to do a pop-up book and you want to get to the good part first, but the first important thing is to do the best writing that you can do using all of the things that we learned and talked about in second grade, writing with great detail, having a good story lead, and using the story parts and all of the things that Mrs. Flutter is talking about in the taped lessons. Let's look down and see what else. So you can kind of see that this book, actually every single page is a pop-up. So you don't have to do that. In fact, when you write your story, let's say you illustrate, you could just have one or maybe two pages be pop-up, which is kind of exciting because maybe the reader doesn't expect that. Look at this one. You can see that they've got their background down here. I like how they did that. And then up here, notice they have a frame around their page all the way. I always think that's a good idea, although you don't have to do that. But you can see these turtles are 3D, they stick out, and then there's background turtles as well. Here's like a pop-out teacup and another pop-out tea kettle. Notice that this booklet is set up the vertical way, and then this one's set up horizontally, which you could do both in your story, in your book. And these are some things that kids are preparing to attach to. There's a spider that kind of is 3D popping out. Okay, let me show you this other thing. This boat, they make it look like it's kind of precariously tipping on this thing. Pops out. Oh, here's some pop-out things. Now, when you look carefully at this particular book, you'll see that it looks like a box. It literally pops right out of the page. And then the student made this artwork on a separate piece of paper and then attached it, probably with glue. You can also see that when you first start out, you've got a piece of white paper and then you fold it in half. There you go, look at that one. Anyway, I want you to really pay careful attention to the detail, and that these kids look like they really spent a lot of time on their artwork. And of course, their writing. We don't want to forget how important that is. There's another one. I'm not sure if that's a bird. Something going over a waterfall. That's clever. Oh, now look at this one. These kids are walking through the woods, and here's one of those things that you can pull to make it look like they're walking from behind the tree. That's clever. And there's another view of that. This looks interesting. Some water, not exactly sure what that is, but all right. So anyways, I'm going to show you how to get started Now, as I mentioned before, let me share my AverVision with you. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing because I want to double check and make sure that I'm sharing the correct thing. There we go. Okay, you should be able to see that now. Oops. There we go. Okay, let's get started. So, what I'm going to do is use some of the writing that one of my students has been working on, and she's currently working on it for a mini unit that we're doing to describe setting. And we're kind of standing on the shoulders of a mentor author, and I chose Cynthia Rylant. So we're kind of studying her work, and we're adding to our setting description as we move along. So let's get started. Okay, the things that you're going to need today, it's quite simple. Probably some glue, maybe glue stick, or even tape if you don't have glue. A pair of scissors, pencil's always good. A ruler if you have one, but I think you can do this without a ruler. All right. Now, I'm going to do my page this way, vertically. Now, first I'm going to point out that when you do pop-up, you actually have to have 2 layers, and you'll see why in a minute. So, you get your 2 layers, make sure they're together, and then what you want to do is fold this in half. So when you're designing, when you're writing your story, and then if you're going to write and illustrate, then that means you're probably going to want to use this size. Okay, so I'm going to open this back up. Now, one of the most basic things, I'm going to take the back sheet and move it over out of the way. So for now, we just have the front single sheet. Now, let's say that I want to attach some artwork that I do on a separate piece of paper. What we're going to do is, so this is sort of considered, say, the horizon line. And let's say that you want to place an element of design. It's oftentimes best not to put things right in the middle, sometimes off to one side or the other. That way you have space for your written story also. Okay. Before I show you how to do this first simple method of pop-up strategy or procedure, I'm going to take my ruler and I'm actually going to draw my frame beforehand. So I think if I do it now, it'll make life easier later. I'm going to use my ruler, just kind of eyeball it. I didn't even measure. It doesn't have to be perfect. And I turn my paper, because when I draw lines, when I'm measuring, I always like to kind of go from top down towards me. Turn my paper again so I can do that again. I'm going to eyeball about how far from the edge. And one more. Okay. All right, so again, we've got our crease. All right, so in order to make that box shape that you can apply artwork to, you want to make sure you don't make it too small and squatty, because then when you fold your paper up and the box pops out, it's only going to be about like this tall, and that would be kind of hard to attach something to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my ruler, but again, you can do it by hand, and off to the side, I'm just going to draw a line, and I want it to be about the same from the crease to here as it is from the crease to here. So I might as well measure, since that was part of our second grade curriculum. So I think I went up about 1.5 inches, and that means I need to go down 1.5 inches, and it looks like I somehow managed to get it about right. Okay, and then I'm going to Now, depending on the shape that you are going to apply later to this box, let's say you're going to make a person and they're going to be about this wide, well then you might want to make this narrow. Now I'm going to be applying something that's a little wider. It's going to be about this wide, so I'm going to make mine just a little bit narrower than what I'm going to apply. So I'm going to measure again, 1.5 inches, another 1.5 inches down. Okay, after you do that, just make kind of a light line at the bottom and at the top. So basically you just drew yourself a rectangle, okay? Now, the top and the bottom line you are not going to cut. You need to keep those, but they will be folded. So I'm just gonna go like that to remind you and myself. Okay, now I'm gonna fold this in half this way so I can see my lines. And I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut from here up to the top. Make sure you stop carefully where you want it to be. Yeah, that looks right. Over the other side, do the same thing. Okay. Now, when you're going to, and I'm going to come back this way. When you're going to, you need to crease these, but you want to be careful not to crease all the way across again. So basically, you're going to want to, this is going to pop out this way. And as you can see, this crease needs to be creased that way. So I'm going to flip this over. I'm going to lay it back down, and I'm kind of just going to lay it down and make a crease, just like that. Looks like I need to fix it a little bit though. Not perfect. Okay, here we go. And then it looks like the other one kind of came out too, but I want to make it, it looks like I didn't do it exactly on the crease line, so I'm going to kind of push it down with my fingers and fix it. There. Okay, so look at what we have now. Here's a side view. Looks like that. It's almost like a little stool or chair or whatever. In fact, that could be a chair if you're setting as a room. Okay, now I'm also going to make a sliding thing to pull one of my little creations back and forth just for the fun of it. So let me set this aside, and I'm going to grab another piece of paper. All right, you're going to be using this to put your slider through. So you need to make sure that your slider isn't too wide, but you don't want it to be too narrow either. So it needs to be somewhere like, if I go like this, it probably should be about this wide. Okay, so I think what I'm gonna do is fold my paper in half like this. And then I think I'm actually gonna glue this together real quick. I'm gonna take some Elmer's. Now, you can also make a pop-up card for someone. It doesn't even have to be in a story. It does take a lot of patience, so. Okay, now I'm gonna flip this back over and just glue that down. And that will have a chance to dry. But I'm gonna take my ruler. I'm gonna eyeball it. From here to here looks about the same as from here to here. And I'm probably gonna end up making this shorter, but I don't wanna do that until I know how much space my other shape is going to need. So I'm not sure how long this needs to be yet, put it that way. All right. So now it's glued together, so I'm just going to cut this out and set it aside so it can dry. All right, there's that. Just going to set it over here. It'll dry. Okay, back to this. Now, I am going to apply something that, well, it looks like a door. So I'm going to take another piece of paper, and I need to make sure that my door is wider than this, and I want to kind of look on my paper and see if I apply my door, it's going to start here, and I want it to go up to about there. So that means my door is going to be about maybe this tall. So this is going to look like a closet door. So I'm going to try to make it look like it's opened up. Make the door, try to make it look a little bit 3D. Let's see, I'm going to go look at the door and see what they look like again. Okay. So the doors kind of have what look like little window things. Try to draw this sort of in 3D perspective like Mrs. Jorgensen has talked about. And then I think there's like an extra little thing up here, something like that. And then down below, let's just say it looks like this. Okay, and of course we need a doorknob. So now that I kind of have my lines sort of the way I want them, I'm going to shorten those up a little. Now I can go over my lines a little bit. And then I want this to look like it's the inside of the closet. Now, I'm doing this with pencil just because if you had to sit there and watch me do all the coloring like the kids did that I showed you the examples, it would take me all day. But that doesn't mean that I don't want you to, because I want you to do your normal spectacular illustrating. Okay, so this is the object that I'm going to apply to this. So now I need to cut this out. All I have to do is go like that. And I'm just going to cut right down this piece here. Okay. All right, so I've got my door. Okay, eventually the door will be applied right to the bottom of this, because then when it pops up, okay, so you can see that it'll be right there. See? Then when the page is closed, it'll stick out a little bit, I guess. So if you don't want it to stick out, you'll have to design your thing so it doesn't go up that high. But for now, this is good. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to make the slider thing so that if you want to make it look like somebody's going inside the closet or the woods or whatever your story setting is, you can do that. Okay, I think that the best way for me to do my slider thing would be to cut maybe slits right here and here, and then I can slide my slider through there. The one thing that I'm going to have to be really careful about though is when I do my gluing, when I attach my door, I don't want to get so much glue or in the wrong glue in the wrong place. So we'll have to mess with that a little bit. But okay, let me grab my slider that I set aside to dry. Probably not all the way dry, but that's okay. Yeah, it's still a little bit wrinkly because it's wet. I probably put too much glue on. Okay, so now what I need to do is look and see about how wide I need my slits to be. You're going to make 2 slits. They need to be a little bit taller than, a little higher and a little lower. So your slits are going to go about like that. So you need to have them, because if they're the same height as your slider, it's going to be really hard to, but you also don't want them too sloppy wide either, and you also don't want it to maybe go up to there or down to the bottom. So cutting the slits is a little bit touchy, but you can do it. So I'm going to kind of fold this sort of like that carefully, and then I'm just going to take my scissors and I'm going to, while I'm holding this together, I'm just going to kind of cut. Okay, now I have my slits, and I kind of made a little crease there, but it's not too bad. Okay, so now we need to test the slider. Let's give it a try. Pull the slider, pull the slits, slide the slider in there like that. Yeah, good, because then it'll go like that. Now I also noticed that whoever designed the one that had the boy and the girl walking in the woods, they made like a little arrow so that the reader knows that they need to slide that way. So I'm going to do that. Okay. All right. Now, this is the part where I am now going to glue my closet door down, but I need to make sure that I don't you have to be really light-handed with the glue so that you're only gluing the door down, but you're not gluing the slider. So I think I'm going to grab some glue stick just to be on the safe side. So hang on a minute. Found it. Otherwise, you can even use tape. Okay. I need to really carefully, I'm going to put my glue stick sideways because I just want to be so careful. There. I'm going to try that. I mean, better to start out with not enough glue than too much. Now, as I mentioned before, the bottom of the door needs to line up with the bottom or just above. And you need to kind of rub it down. The warmth of your hand will help it to dry. Make sure while you're doing that you can still do your slider, okay? Okay, now you're going to want to make your drawing of whatever's in your story. Obviously, you always want your illustrations to go well with your story. So you're going to want to draw whatever it is that you're going to put on your slider so that you can get it how you like it, cut it out, and then glue that down. Then also, whatever your object is, maybe you want it to be way over here so that they can go all the way into the closet, or maybe you want it to be more like this. If that's the case, you don't want this sticking out too far, maybe only about this far. So that means you might want to cut some of your slider off, but I'm not going to do that till the very end, just to be on the safe side. Okay, so let's see what this looks like now that we have these. Let's just kind of pop this up now. All right, so what we have, you can kind of see from above, see what it looks like behind, and then it's like that. So that's pretty cool. And then you can also do other artwork in color here, maybe before you do this. I don't know. I think construction is probably wise. Once you get it to this part and you feel like you've got it and you've got this figured out, if you want to do this, remember, you don't have to do a slider. But once you get things the way you want them, then you need to make sure that your story is edited and maybe write your words up here. That's what I did. And then add to your illustration down here, and you can add some detail up here. And notice those other kids, they spent a lot of time on their illustrations. They were really beautiful. So anyways, after you draw and create whatever you're going to put on here, glue that down. And then I'm going to show you one that I already made that's just like this, only it has a little bit more detail. Okay, so this is a piece of writing that one of my students is working on. It's beautiful. We're up to this part so far. Next week, we're going to add the last sentence, which is personification. But let me read this to you. My closet is full and organized, a lot like the shelves at the bookstore. It is tucked in the corner of my room right next to my nightstand, and to a mouse it would look like 100 places to hide, or to a squirrel it would look like a great place to hide some nuts. In the middle of the day it looks shadowy and dark, and then next week we'll add the rest of it, but beautiful writing. Okay, so notice I added some details. I added like a little chandelier light, and I decided to make the squirrel instead of the mouse. And then I can finish, when she finishes writing, I can add her last sentence. I drew a bed, and I just drew like a braided rug, and obviously this can all be in color too. So here's what it looks like. And she can go like this. So pretty fun. So I hope that as you guys have been watching, that maybe you might already have some ideas for yourself. And remember, once you learn this technique, you can use it for a lot of things. Maybe you want to make your brother a birthday card or send your grandma. I mean, how cool would that be for your grandma to get a card and open it up and it's a pop-up? She would be thrilled. She probably wouldn't even believe you made it. And again, like I said, it would be kind of tackling a lot to do a pop-up for every page of your story. That's up to you though, because summer's coming and you will have time. So, Nora, I hope you like this. And I hope some of you are inspired and will give this a try. All right, have a great weekend.